Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for September 8th of 2023, and currently we have three main regions to focus on for severe weather for today. We have a slight risk that does extend a large portion of the New England corridor that does extend into northern Virginia as far north as parts of southern Maine, including Maryland, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, and New Hampshire, and of course Maine. We also do have a slight risk for parts of western Louisiana into eastern Texas here that I will also cover in today's forecast. We also do have this marginal threat for southern Montana into northern Wyoming and western South Dakota that I likely will not cover at all in today's forecast, as well as this small marginal threat for central Florida here. As for threats for today, we don't really have all that much of a tornado threat for today. As for wind, we do have two areas of 15% for the slight risk regions and to 5% for either marginal threat regions. So that is going to be one of the primary threats for severe weather for today. And as for hail, we do have a couple 5%. We don't have a 5% for the marginal threat for Florida. However, we do have a 5% for the slight risk region for the New England corridor, as well as a 5% for the marginal threat for the northwestern and north central plains region of the United States, as well as a 5% for the slight risk region for eastern Texas in western Louisiana. However, overall, our main threats for these two slight risks is going to be damaging winds. Taking a look at the tropics, primarily focusing on Hurricane Lee here. As I did mention, it was expected to be a Category 5 until 8 a.m. on Saturday. However, it has been downgraded back down to a Category 4, and I think this M right here is going to indicate Category 3 status. Hurricane Lee is expected to begin to weaken over time, back down to overall still a major hurricane, but definitely not a Cat 4 or Cat 5 by the time it gets close to the United States. I think by the time it does impact regions of the United States, I think it is expected to be downgraded back down to anywhere below a Cat 3. I think more so back in the Cat 2, Cat 1 range. However, again, models have been very, very indecisive about the path that Hurricane Lee is going to take. So it could impact parts of coastal regions of North Carolina, but it could also not. Models have been really on the edge of if it's actually going to impact North Carolina or not. However, as it seems, it doesn't really look like it is going to impact North Carolina. A lot of the models indicate that it isn't going to impact North Carolina, but it could have a potential to lead to some weaker end impacts along the coast of North Carolina. I think the main regions that it is going to impact is going to be the New England region, mostly anywhere from Long Island up to Maine. I think that is going to be the primary region of focus for Hurricane Lee, and I do not think it's going to impact as a Cat 4, Cat 3 status. Again, I do think it is going to weaken back down to anywhere below a Cat 3, again, probably in the Cat 1, Cat 2 range, maybe even as a tropical storm. I don't think it's going to be all that bad up to the major hurricane status, so do not panic if you live in any of the areas that is expected to see impacts from Hurricane Lee. It is expected to weaken significantly by the time it does impact the United States, but it is still good to watch for updates on Hurricane Lee, and I will continue to provide updates on Hurricane Lee tomorrow and up until the day of impact. Taking a look at our 500 millibars, mainly focusing on the two slight risk regions, let me go ahead and turn off the warnings and the watches so we can get a better idea and can see much more clearly in the areas that we are expected to see severe thunderstorms. So mainly focusing on the two slight risk regions, but let's start off with the slight risk region for the New England corridor. We did have that cold front that did pass through, and I think it is going to help trigger severe thunderstorms again today. However, it did leave a low pressure system situated over the Ohio Valley, so the jet stream is expected to take a huge dip into the Dixie states and then go back up and exit across the New England region. So that is going to be aiding in severe thunderstorms, along with that cold front that is, I think, situated over that region as well. And then you can see that we do have a little bit of a region of fairly strong mid-level flow just before the base of that trough there. That is going to help trigger severe thunderstorms across the slight risk region for eastern Texas into western Louisiana. You can see that it is fairly strong. We are expected to see some elongated hodographs from that to lead to the possibility of some small to medium hail. However, overall, the main threat is going to be more so damaging winds, and the same does stand for elongated hodographs and the threat of damaging winds for the slight risk region across the New England region as well. And then as for Florida, you can see that we do have a very, very weak shortwave trough that is expected to be across the Florida region. It isn't really expected to do all that much. I think right now it is more of a damaging wind threat because this trough is not all that strong. So we could see the possibility of some weak thunderstorms with damaging winds across central Florida. And then as for the marginal threat for the northwestern into central plains region in the United States, you can see that we do have a little bit of a ridge situated over the southwestern United States that is expected to push the jet stream up into the northwestern and north plains region before dipping back south across the Dixie Valley with that low pressure system there. So that you can see that the top of that ridge there is expected to be situated across that region. You can see that we do have a little bit stronger mid-level flow on the top of that ridge. So we are expected to see some severe thunderstorms across the northwestern into central plains region. And we are expected to see a little bit of some elongated hodographs to support some small to medium hail. And that should be the primary threat for that marginal threat across the northwestern and central plains alongside damaging winds. Taking a look at our dew points, starting off the slight risk region for the New England corridor, and then we'll take a look at the slight risk region for eastern Texas into western Louisiana. You can see that we are expected to see tons of moisture across this region, moisture that is going to be pulled in from the Atlantic Ocean, which will rise dew points into the upper 70s and upper 60s across vast majority of the New England region, primarily closer to the coast. However, this will definitely lead to some fairly strong instability, possibly getting up to those upper 2000s and upper 3000s. It could get a little bit higher, but we will have to see on our instability models. But then if we take a look at the slight risk region for eastern Texas into western Louisiana, we are expected to have some fairly strong moisture here as well. We are expected to see moisture and dew point values that are expected to be into the low 70s and mid 70s as well. That is expected to be from the Gulf. So we are expected to see some fairly strong instability here as well. Taking a look at temperatures, starting off with the slight risk region for the New England corridor, as I did mention earlier, we do have that cold front that is expected to continue to sit across the New England corridor. That is going to be another primary triggering factor for this slight risk region with that jet stream that we do have moving across this region. So those two are expected to work together to trigger severe thunderstorms across this region. However, the mid-level flow that we have is mostly zonal, so we aren't really expected to see any veering in the winds to support directional shear for tornadoes. So that's why we don't really have all that much of a tornado potential for today. However, overall, our main threats are going to be damaging winds, and with that jet stream across this region being fairly zonal, we could see some elongated hodographs to support small to medium hail. However, it was fairly weak, so we aren't expected to see severely elongated hodographs, just somewhat elongated hodographs that could support small to medium hail across this region. But then if we take a look at Texas here, if you see any of these maroon colors across Texas into southern Oklahoma, that is going to indicate temperatures of 100 and above. So if you do live in any of these areas that is expected to see colors in the maroon, definitely make sure you are staying hydrated if you have any plans outside whatsoever, which I honestly really do not recommend in temperatures this hot, as well as make sure you are watching out for any heat-related illnesses such as heat stroke, as they could be fairly common and deadly in temperatures this high. Taking a look at our instability, focusing on the slight risk region first, you can see a lot of the moisture that was pulled in from the Atlantic is expected to rise Cape values extremely high. We are expected to see extreme amounts of instability across the slight risk region, which will provide more than enough fuel for severe thunderstorms to support damaging winds and small to medium hail. with the longitude photographs that we have. So with CAPE values that are going to be getting up to the low to mid 5,000s across Connecticut, and widespread mid 4,000s and upper 3,000s, and widespread upper 2,000s as well, we are expected to have more than enough fuel for damaging winds and the threat for small to medium hail across this region. However, overall, the reason we aren't expected to see a very high potential for severe thunderstorms across this region with the instability that we have is because the jet stream is not only fairly zonal, but it is also expected to be fairly weak as well. The jet stream across this region is very, very weak. I think is getting into the mid 30 knots. On the 500 millibars models. So if that was stronger, we could see a higher potential for severe thunderstorms with the instability that we have. However, without a strong jet stream, we are expected to have limited organization of thunderstorms and overall a weaker potential for severe thunderstorms. However, again, we are expected to see that 15% wind threat and that 5% hail threat. But then if we take a look at the slight risk region for eastern Texas into western Louisiana, we are expected to have a lot of the same thing. We are expected to see tons of instability. Again, we aren't expected to see CAPE values that are going to be getting into the 5,000s like in Connecticut. However, we are expected to see CAPE values that are going to be getting into the upper 3,000s and low 4,000s across eastern Texas, and widespread mid to upper 2,000s, which will definitely lead to the threat of damaging winds and the possibility of small to medium hail with elongated photographs from that trough that we have across this region. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator, and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. If you live in any of the areas that I covered for today, please stay weather alert for the time being, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.